Hello everyone, if you can just turn on your videos and audios, we are ready to start.
Hello and good afternoon. Welcome back to Series 3, the penultimate episode in our series of helping entrepreneurs win. The last 2 days, exactly at 3 o'clock, we've had some great discussions with some great panel. We started off on Tuesday with marketing technology solutions for SMEs, trying to explore the need for marketing solutions. How do you assess the right technology for your business, even if it's needed, for example, right? Great insights by the panelists. Yesterday, we had a panel on advertising technology, and I shouldn't use that word because Sulin from Grab was very clear that ad tech, no, we can't use that word. We shouldn't use that word, right? So it's digital marketing technologies that we have to use. We had Alex Hui, as well, and Hubert from Ada, Cambodia. And today, no different. We're closing this with brand safety, right? What does your brand have to think about in a time when all businesses, all entrepreneurs seem to be going online, right? And consumers are there. So what do we need to think about brand safety? And here with me today for this third series, learning the blind spots when it comes to your brand safety, I have with me a very good-looking Nicholas Sagau. He's obviously he did his hair up pretty well for today. Who is the president of the MDEC and also the chief product officer of the Ref Media Group, right? It's really one of the largest media conglomerates, a digital arm of the largest media conglomerates. And he is really driving strategy implementation and operations of the group's digital news, video, and game products. So to be aligned with the group's vision, which is Media Prima, to be the leading digital-first content and commerce company. And next to him, with not that much of hair, I didn't have to do much there, is Andrew Pinto, head of marketing for Mudah.my All Hand. This is an award-winning marketer as well. And he began his advertising and communications career in 2000. And really, he's full of passion and curiosity. In advertising has led him from developing point-of-sales materials to regional music platforms to now strategizing international positioning for the country. He does this by adopting a hands-on, down-to-earth, collaborative approach. And as you listen to him later, you'll understand why, right? This guy is hard-hitting in his comments. And third, no less important, in fact, I think one of the anchors of today's discussion is the ham, right? Professor Harmandar, who has been creative director gone rogue, and after a stint as a failed pub guitarist, and that's not my words, that's what he has put here, he's created over 400 TV commercials and picked up hundreds of awards to his name. But that was very early in his career. Now he has lost it and he's broke out on his own. Yeah. And so he, for 11 years, he was a weekly columnist with The Star and the New Sunday Times, writing stuff that people wanted to read but didn't have the cojones to speak up about. He's got his own magazine called Marketing, and he tries to stop writing at 10,000 words, but I know him not to stop speaking at 10,000 words, right? So we look forward to it, and let's get straight into it, right? Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Let's start by really understanding what is brand safety, right? What is that meaning, and why is it an important role especially in these times, So maybe I can start with Nick and say, what is brand safety?
So brand safety, from perspective of us as media and also, looking out for our client are really, how to, really look at your brand or your content are not appearing for some next to something that's not suitable to what you want to portray your brand out there to be, right? So this has been quite a issue where it's like sort of like top line important to a lot of clients that work with us. I was reading last night, there was research saying that 60% of clients finding brand safety is like a top priority versus other issue in advertising, digital advertising in general that they're looking out for. So yeah, so it's a big topic that people are worrying about, but again, as we discussed today, a lot of complexity around what happens behind the scene of to make this happen, and how companies are not prepared, right, to be too much of panic when something happens to the brand, when it's out there, and then especially in a context of digital, a single screenshot of your brand appearing to something that you don't represent yourself to, right? Then boom, you go viral and everyone goes panic. And at the end of the day, it's something that everyone's sort of like afraid that it will happen. But at the same time, I believe some brands are taking it over too much, worrying about the brand. I suppose again, it's something that there's something that they're not prepared to face, right? So over worrying about it as well could impact a lot of your campaign, right? I have some example later on, but we can share that in a bit as we go on to the session.
Right. Andrew, so, what Nick said just now was about, maybe appearing beside an inappropriate content, or you're worried too much about your brand coming in the wrong context, right? But the speed of which news is appearing now online, can you realistically look at brand safety in this warp speed of information?
The reality that is that you can do it. It depends in terms of whether you set contextual, in terms of what you don't want your brands to be associated with. There are certain criteria. I think even like publishers today also start to put in terms of what sort of news they're doing. So brands can actually choose to exclude in terms of where they don't want their brand to appear, as much as it's important for brands to also know that where they want to appear. Right. So in today's warp speed, light speed, I think it's still possible, but the reality is that you can never be 100% sure in terms of what the inevitable will happen. Like, for example, I was looking at this post the other day, right? There was this guy who shared a post where he bought a packet of mihun. So imagine a packet of mihun, and the mihun, he opened it, and inside there, they said that 72 people sakit perut sebab makan mihun. So things like that sometimes is inevitable, but the best we can do is to make sure that we set up the right criteria to make sure the brand appears in the right places, and also to put terms where we don't want the brand to appear in.
Right, and just to take off from that, Ham, gentlemen, Ham has written about various stuff, right? What's going on in the Star, what's going on, in Tourism Malaysia and all of that, right? And then, a brand says, I want to advertise with marketing because it's got a good reach, quality readership. But with all this content coming out and Ham pushing the envelope, how safe is it for me to advertise there, right? Ham, what's your thoughts on that?
Okay, thank you. I'm not an expert as Nicholas and Andrew are on the digital space, but I know that a lot of you listeners tuning in today are SMEs, so am I. And we don't want to get into too much of jargon and confuse you. So allow me to be a bit old-fashioned and ghostan a bit. Brand safety is a new word, huh? Like first aid and all that, all safety. So brand safety is your product not being jeopardized, not put into a dangerous place. Dangerous, I mean, is you don't want to see your product on the shelf. Say, for example, you are selling shampoo, and you personally don't want it to be sold next to the condoms. Yeah, just to give you an example. So that is what we now define as brand safety. Things that we do to avoid such things like the irrelevant situation, You don't want your ad to appear in a next to a violent movie, for example, especially if you're selling diapers, and you don't want to be alongside adult content. So these are the environments that we are talking about with regards to trying to preserve the integrity of the brand while advertising and promoting it, especially in this context today in the digital space. So we've gone from the offline into the online. When we come into the online space, these are the new protocol or rather new guidelines that we have to be aware of. Hence the term brand safety. Now, if you talk about what are the negative things that you don't want to be associated with, or you don't want your brand to be next to, or be in the same environment with. Well, for some people don't want to be alongside a liquor advertisement, for example. Say a product for children may not want to advertise or promote next to cigarette advertising, for example, or whatever that is irrelevant. Yeah. Some people don't want to be next to fake news. As you know, there's a lot of fake news. Some people don't want to be next to fake ads. As you can see, ads, not Tony Fernandez giving advice here and there. So these are all the things that that appear in this very messy world on the internet that the brands try to avoid, so that they have a clear path to talk to the consumer. So how they do it, they use a thing called programmatic. Basically, programmatic is a big word. It means automatically done by machine. So they use the machines to automatically put these things out. But unfortunately, the machines are not humans or not as smart as you and I. So sometimes they make mistakes. Like for example, in Singapore, Singapore Airlines advertisement appeared next to one adult content last year. Not for long, just for a little while, but we noticed it. So these things can happen because the machines can make the mistakes. Of course, machines learn along the way. And what happens at the end of the day is brand safety is important for all of you, especially SMEs, when you are looking at digital marketing, because you want to keep the reputation of your brand intact. And you want to avoid being associated or wrongly associated, that is, for the wrong reasons with bad things. Yeah.
Right. So the IAB, the International Advertising Board, has that dirty dozen, tobacco, religion, and a couple of others that they put out there, plus one fake news. So there are 13 now, the baker's dozen, that generally serves as a guide in terms of where you wouldn't want your brand to appear. But the reality is that the SMEs that I know too as well, right? Below 10 people, below 20 people, more and more there are people in there are not fully digital marketing perhaps, right? But they have to go into Facebook marketing, Google display networks and others, right? And so sometimes that thinking perhaps is not top of the mind. It's more towards let's push out our ads, let's try and get some lead gens and all that to come in, right? So Nick, you have a range of platforms with you, right? What can SMEs really use? What kind of strategies can they use if they're using the ad serving tools, right?
Yeah, so some of the, there are a lot of tools available to, I think, maybe let's just reverse a little bit, right? So I think a lot of, people try to, companies try to plan good campaign, right? So a lot of planning is being done, and when they pushed it out, I think one of the mistakes sometimes they do is they don't listen and monitor the campaign. This is in a perspective of digital, right? When you launch a campaign, then if you don't set it up properly, your campaign sort of go everywhere, wherever you put it, right? And then some brands just don't have time to listen to what people are talking about, right? So even like we've seen some of our clients actually do campaign on their own Facebook, but they don't go and monitor what people are talking about on Facebook on that particular campaign, right? So I think spend time listening. There's a lot of listening tools out there. There's some free one, and then you can actually subscribe to some like Sprout Social, TweetDeck, Hootsuite. So it's got a few services. We ourselves use Zanru to sort of like give a lot of context to your brand. What's the negative is, what is positive, what's neutral, and from there onward, you sort of like be able to monitor and see what kind of traction are you doing in the market. And the other one is I think not to promote premium publisher like myself and Andrew, always try to, if you have, if you're worried about, going really not able to control, look for a premium publisher, look to buy direct to the publisher in portals or in products that you can actually associate yourself with. So for example, if you want to, do like, a lot of campaign just to target youth, in English, for example, right? So if you're worried about it, just go to one of the established, publisher site like Says, right? So in there, we can actually control and manage, the feel of a campaign around your ads.
Right. But the reality is that budgets are the constraint. If you look at the revenues dropping, let's face it, in whatever business that you are, the marketing spend is a function of what your revenue projections are, or your current revenue is, right? There's always this problem about do I extend, or do I measure it accordingly? And so, like Andrew, from your point of view, right? I think Mudah has probably seen, in my assumption, that a surge in users, as well as a surge in vendors as well. I see even Mudah doing programmatic. You guys are coming out also everywhere. So not only is Mudah doing that, but you're also trying to assist the SMEs that are coming on board your platform and the individuals who also advertise, right? And how do you look at, firstly, on Mudah, like what kind of tools are you using? And secondly, how are you supporting them on this digital marketing tool for brand safety purposes? Yeah.
So let me take everybody's go start. Let me go start a bit also. So what's happened here is that Mudah is a marketplace, right? So Mudah is a marketplace. Think of us like Emporium, or think of us like a shopping center, right? What we do is that we actually ask people to come and set up shop. So it's our responsibility to get traffic to come to your shop if you're in Mudah. So the good thing is that there's about 8.5 million monthly active users of Mudah that is coming to browse everything from like cars to clothes or shoes and all that. There are traffic already coming in. What we want to do is that we want to ensure that there's always an active supply of people or traffic coming in, and redistribute that traffic to the people or to the entrepreneurs or businesses that actually set up shop in Mudah. So that is the context in terms of what we do. Now, how we do it is two things. One is that we actually have a very strong or ongoing remarketing campaign, which doesn't really cost much, because what we do is that we have an app, we use push notifications. Ham use a bit more traditional via WhatsApp. But it's how you engage back with your users, right? So we actually use that based on the platform itself. And we always look out for new users to come in to replenish the people to actually provide demand for the supply that the businesses have. So in terms of tools of what we use, definitely there is no going away from the duopoly, but we also recently have been working a lot with Media Prima and local publishers also to see how we can actually help each other in terms of getting good inventory, in the sense that we realized that last year almost 30% of the inventory in US was not seen.
Wow.
And that's almost like 30 billion ringgit. So ad fraud is a big business, like the Russian mafia, the Chinese, all this. It's a huge business here now, right? But that's the thing. It's like when you buy into unknown sites, or you buy into open auctions, right? Unless you set your criteria, and I think Google has a very good in terms of some of the settings. But you have to go into your settings and ensure that, number one, if you're only a Malaysian business, buy into Malaysian audience. Don't go and buy China, India, Pakistan, all that, because if you don't set it, the system will automatically find it at the cheapest possible cost. So you will see that, oh wow, very good. I reach, one person I reach costs 1 cent. But you're not actually knowing the quality of your reach. I think that's one. The second thing is to ensure in terms of the right, I was mentioning context just now, right? Make sure that you are targeting people who are interested in your product. Like Ham was saying that, you want to target baby products, you don't go and target 50-year-old men. so those are
man? I'm a young father too, okay?
Now we can know what's your age now.
So that's the thing, right? I think part of it is the tools already inbuilt in the system, but also making sure that you set your right audience, and having the right audience, right, will give you the good results in that aspect. And also the thing that I notice the most whenever I speak to SMBs is that they keep on looking in terms of actually like larger clients as well. They keep on looking in terms of input metrics. So
Right.
input metrics could be reach or clicks, right?
Mm.
But from a business, what you really want to see is that how is that reach impacting or giving you the performance? That could be in terms of the entering visits. So like, for example, if you have 100 people come in and 90% of them don't appear, basically you're just getting 10 people for the amount of money you pay. Is there a way to actually find a place where you can actually reduce the bounce rate to maybe 20%? So from 10 people you get in, you're actually getting 8 people versus the 2.
You see, Ham, you see, what Andrew said just now is very interesting, right? I mean, it all makes sense, and we think we should do it, right? Again, the reality for the SMEs is that, do I have the resources? Because it obviously takes layers of measurement and monitoring, right? And the truth is that it may appear like you said, SIA with some undesirable content, and because of the speed, somebody's caught it, it's out there, reported it, it becomes a mini crisis issue sort of thing, right? So from your point of view, firstly, is there such a thing, the term, and this is a question actually that's coming up live now, yeah? Is there such a thing called brand safety, or should it be brand suitability? Just to get your thoughts around that first question. And second question is, how reasonable is it to expect SMEs to go through what Andrew is saying? Because, his team may be big, right? He has the resources to spend, maybe, right? But, someone who's not in that space. So there are two things, right? Brand safety against brand suitability. Number two, how would someone set it up so that they can monitor and measure their brand safety?
Very good, very good. First and foremost, brand safety and then brand suitability, brand addressability. These are words that are coming out as we face these new challenges when we try to navigate digital marketing as entrepreneurs. They are all critical in the context of the journey that you want to try to map out for your brand. From the entrepreneur's point of view, I feel that you don't have to do everything in the world to become successful. Less is more. Entrepreneur is a guy who's a businessman who manages risks. In today's time, he is the frontliner suffering. He's the one queuing up at EPF, taking out his money. He's the one surrendering his insurance policies just to keep his business going. He's a special type of person. A person who is very passionate about his business. And that kind of person is already talented, knowledgeable. So that person should look at digital marketing with that kind of mature, seasoned thinking. What works, works. What works, what does not work, throw out. You don't have to tick all the boxes of addressability, suitability, disability, and thatability.
It becomes a disability.
Because you don't have to tick, it's like a swing door. You open what is good and then you close. So whenever I have this kind of questions, I always think to myself, that the world is like this. It will have all this fancy stuff going on. But at the end of the day, you have a brand. Now you have these exciting platforms that these two gentlemen are talking about in the digital space. Yes, use it. But don't play victim that because somebody came up with a new word, now you got to read a book about it to get somewhere. No, relax. You are already a very strong person. You have persevered. You have worked for your brand. You know the principles of business, distribution. You understand. You sleep, breathe your product. You know how to apply it accordingly. So I suggest that pick and choose as you go along the way. You will never be an SIA. So that one is all logical questions with logical answers.
Right.
For me, at the end of the day, with the COVID thing happening and all that, gentlemen, if I may just add, sometimes it is not what we say. Sometimes it is what we don't say. Sometimes it is the pauses in between what we say that I'm sure that the listeners today are listening to the pauses and thinking to themselves how much they want to equip themselves technologically. There's also the emotional side of marketing. There's also so many other parts of being human that come into play. So I just want to give a very holistic situation that every solution got a problem. Every problem has a solution. I think digital is a very, very efficient way of addressing our problems. But it is not the answer for everything. It still comes down to the product works or not, this one, blah, 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 with the product in the right place, as Andrew was saying, and
Having done that, on the assumption that the a brand guy, an entrepreneur who knows his job, getting the products done, and so on, right? So he does that. And then, there's no choice, right? You have to go into marketing right now, whether it's social marketing or digital marketing or word of mouth marketing, KOLs, you got to go there, right? So a question has also come up here and said, and maybe this is relevant for Nick. Uh, how can we get content publishers to a certain standard? Is there a self-regulatory mechanism that we can say, okay, these are verified content publishers, there's a certain standard that they have adopted for themselves, rather than getting regulation inside, then it allows the entrepreneur, SMEs, to say, okay lah, at least ada tick, I can go this with confidence. What's your thinking on that, Nick?
If I may, very quickly, the content has now evolved. Yeah, those days sometimes you read an advertisement and you think that it is content, but then there's also now sponsored content coming into the place. Content itself has gone through a lot of evolution, and then there comes the fake news, and then there come people who regurgitate content, aggregate content, sell other people's content, make money on their for themselves. So the content has gone through this very high level of commoditization, generalization through the factory wheel, everything. But what readers are realizing is good content endears to them. And to make the long story short, if the content is personal, because I believe we are now moving into hyper-personalization, whether it's advertising, marketing, content, messaging, communication. So if your content is personalized and written with a style that the readers love and endear, then you have something very good going. So for example, if you are Ajinomoto, or if you are Mami, and you are talking in this way, and only you talk this way, now you have a new competitive advantage for your brand, which is content. So I think content has evolved, and the new mantra for content is actually personalization.
So on that note, again, I just want to come back to Nick as well. So as you do all of this, right, you personalize the content, and generally the SMEs. I don't know how deep is their skill set or even their resources to write this kind of content or create this kind of content, right? So they probably have another agency helping them. Then they go to you again. So again, do you think there should be some minimum standards across the industry for content publishers? Do you think? Number one, and number two, is the barrier to entry so high for trusted publishers that forces the SMEs to go on their own and then perhaps get into some trouble, right?
So I think start the first question, right? I know it can be quite subjective in terms of like what is trusted, information, which is the verified content. So it's quite very subjective, right? Even especially now in Malaysia, which is quite an interesting thing where both sides of, if you're talking about political scenario, a lot of the content are writing from different sides of the stories, which is really, really good in terms of industry for news. But I think what you really need to look at, look at all the offering that's available in the market, right? And it is very easy to do this. You can actually look at, especially if you want to advertise on simple one, advertise on Facebook, right? Just look for the verified sign that Facebook has done a tick on it, right? That's the first, like an easy to start with, right? Look for that, and Facebook and Google, they have a very high standard of getting verified. Ticked on all this Facebook, so you can rest assured like some of the sites are all being verified. And secondly, going back to a platform like us, we obviously look at to make sure that all our contents are like not fake news. Obviously, we go out and we spend a lot of resources to actually verify some of the stories that we actually put out in the different platform that we put in. And how to choose them, right? I mean, there's a wide variety of premium publishers already in the market. Like for us, we have about 38 now product under us. You can actually work with us in looking for different fit for your content. And it's not super high, and we haven't have an SME a special rate that we actually give to the industry. When we go out to market, right? So if you're an SME, you can reach out to me, to Red Media. We can really help you in that, and we understand, right? If the market needs this help, and we've actually started to do this similar like what Andrew was talking about just now. We have a special rate for SME going to our platform. Yeah.
Nick, I think that's really interesting point. I now want to jump to Andrew, because you're a publisher of content as well, right? You look at the marketplaces right now. just the sheer volume that goes in allows yourself to utilize the data or monetize the data to brands, right? And this problem about illicit or counterfeit brands or fake brands appearing on these marketplaces, right? So just for example, right? Say the shoe brand with 3 lines, right? Advertisers, but then that same shoe now is available at one fraction of the cost on your site as well, right? What happens then? How
So,
would you look at it?
so what we do is that we actually have moderators. The reality is that at any one time there's over 1 million ads on Mudah, and all the ads expire in 60 days.
Mm.
So the churn is actually very high. We expire all ads because we want to ensure that the ads are fresh in that sense. No point if the person sold the ad already, it's still there.
Mhm.
And because of the sheer volume, what we've done is that we've also employed machine learning or deployed machine learning on top of the actual people moderating or physical moderators looking at the ads. Certain things also, there are two things here actually. One is that someone actually selling the 3 stripe with a fraction of the price, and someone who is selling the 3 stripe at the actual original price.
Right.
So there's two different types of things we're talking about now, right?
Mm.
But the reality is that through machine learning, as well as through human moderation, we actually pull down those ads. We've actually have working relationships with some of the companies, the manufacturers, which allows us to actually, or tells us, okay, this is real or this is fake, this is real or this is fake. So the reality is that even now, the imitation ones also have come to such a high level, right? That is actually very difficult to also spot in that sense.
So can we really, Prof, can we really then look at brand safety? Are we overthinking this? Like you said just now, just have some common sense about how you get in, do things right. But the truth is, things like this, like what's being shown right now, right? This visual, truth is it may happen, right? What happens then? If you get into a situation like this, and with social media, it moves so fast. What is your take there when things like this do happen?
This is a good example, but this is an international example. And it's a real example, yeah, of how, say, a banner you can see in this case, and you look at the rest of the screen. Now, this is very important because we don't look at this screen only at the banner. We look in the context of the whole screen. So when there's a headline like gang rape, which is certainly more interesting than the word craft, attracting your attention, and then you followed by gang rape pictures, gang rape articles. This sort of context, I'm not sure whether the brand that's paying money for the top banner will want to be associated or being seen next to it.
Right.
And as you can see also down, there's another brand also, that's a window ad there. Yeah, so you can see, like, for example, so these are the things, I think this is about a few years ago, but it gives you an example, especially to SMEs, at least in their mind, if they see these sort of things on their screen when they are monitoring, they should bring it up to their digital marketer or digital person and or share these examples so that, anything can come into the internet and really screw things up. That's why this brand safety issue is very critical. And in the hands of professionals, they can be managed. The people like Nicholas, and they know what they're doing, But if not, this thing, anybody can go and advertise anywhere and then actually get to the wrong side of things. So you're looking in the context. You see, we are not going to the website to look for a particular advertisement, unless that's a search function. You're actually browsing and seeing content everywhere, and then things come into your view and out of your view. So the web visit is an experience by itself that needs to be taken. So it's serious, because you're swimming with a big sea, and then you don't want to be swimming with the sharks. Or you want to be swimming in a safe place. So that's really
absolutely
one way.
So also another aspect of brand safety, because a lot of people now are also moving towards native advertising, sponsored content, like you said, not just advertisements, right? Pushing things. So content marketing has become such a big thing these days. And so, Nick, also from the point of view, you do a lot of content across all your channels, right? Translations can be a bugbear lah. How you translate, right? And the words that you use can also be such a problem, especially on the headlines, because people don't read the rest of the articles, They just zoom into the headlines and then that's it, right? You have a brand problem there already, right? So what would you suggest for clients to look at? Because it's not just appearing next to an inappropriate content, right? Your content in itself may be the problem. How would you address that to SMEs who want to put out content marketing with publishers such as yourself?
What we always advise the clients are, to sort of have a fundamental of what they want to say and talk about. Some, like what Ham was saying, some of the SME or client like overthink themselves, right? They want to control everything about the article that we're writing. So we always tell them, the best bit to do it to just give us what the objective of the content or the marketing objective you want to do for the campaign.
Right.
And so we sort of like help them to craft something that is properly, safe for environment where it's being published, right? We use, obviously, I think in the past, we used to use a lot of clickbait, image thumbnail that,
Right.
invite people to sort of click on it. But, for long term, this kind of site and content that continues to do that wouldn't get the legit level of trust, right? I mean, you go to consumer, right? I read a lot of content online. If I get a click buy on the particular portal, I will never go back to the site again because I'm being cheated, right? So we always tell the client, like, you don't want to cheat the client that you're interacting with. So we sort of help them to craft that out. And not to overdo it, right? Sometimes just overthinking about things. And I think a live example, when COVID was happening, we had a client that insists their ad shouldn't appear next to a COVID-19 keywords, right? We were, they insist to have it. Obviously, times are really bad. We had to do it, right? We had to look for tags and really exclude them from it. But the problem with that is they missed the engagement of audience because everyone wanted to know what the number is today, whether the CMCO is going to be ending. So we keep on telling them, look, you're missing a lot of the audience who are engaging with the plan because staying longer to read or to just analyze it, right? So it's not a bad thing altogether. So sometimes some clients sort of overthink it and don't sort of like get advice from us from the content.
Well, that's a really good point. So Andrew, not just from a Mudah standpoint as well, right? Politically correct terms. So we got a question here. What about content in our messaging and social media captions that our esteemed panelists can advise on strategy so that our marketing team is more aware of brand safety, right? I've seen examples of brands getting backlash because they weren't politically correct, right? And in this kind of environment, almost anything could be politically incorrect, right? So what is your take about that? Because sometimes we don't realize that, right?
So the reality is that we try to take the opportunity to control the narrative. So let's say it's happening on our page, right? Or happening on the Mudah page. It's actually better than it happening outside. Because if it happens on the Mudah page, then we also have the opportunity to address the issue. If there is a mistake made, I think very quickly a brand or even Mudah will need to apologize for any mistake made. But at the same time, also, I think it's a matter of addressing the issue. And one of two things I realized. One is that you don't have to respond to all trollers because some of them are really just trollers in that sense. But the genuine cases, I think as a brand, we have a responsibility to reach out and make good if there's any issues caused in that sense.
Prof, what is your thinking there? Politically incorrect content.
Well, to me, it brings to mind a recent court case that I attended where Malaysia was called out to the highest court in the land because some readers made some comments which were not favorable to certain parties politically, and so they were called up. And anyway, most important, I learned from that experience. I attended the case. What I learned was this whole moderation process is not a small little thing, So for example, you can get the software and they're good ones, and you can you can program them to do the things like what Andrew is saying, certain comments they just ignore because it's it's from a machine, it's from a chatbot or something.
Right.
And there was a publisher in Hong Kong, apparently they get about like a million a day. So when you think about how to control this eventually to be politically correct, say, for example, whether it's content or even whether it is the feedback, because again, they all come into the context, right? An article is not just an article, it's also the comments that come along with it. So when you look in that whole holistic way, bigger way, then you will realize that at the end of the day, it is a machine only that can do it. And it may not be perfect because you can't. I think Malaysia Kini is about a month, they run to millions. And of course, there are two people doing it. But at the end of the day, this is the reality, you know.
So this is also another interesting topic, yeah. So as we think about brand safety and so on and so forth, how will this impact, firstly, freedom of speech? Right? Are we self-censoring because we're so concerned about brand safety? And number two, how will this impact creativity, right? If you're constantly thinking about brand safety, being politically correct, and you want to get sued, the platform and the content both, right? Because the platform just carry the ad sometimes, but then both will kena, So I just want to go around all panelists very, very quickly. And Nick, maybe start with you. Just a very quick, what do you think? Does it stifle freedom of speech, creativity?
Again, I always say this is a subjective thing to look at from different party. I've been with Rev Media and the Media from my group for a long time. I can hear when something happens and when we publish something, I'll get a lot of text and WhatsApp, WhatsApp and stuff, right? So I think people have to, what's the word to use? People need to spend time to understand the situation, right? In terms of like where are the comments coming from? Where is that, where is the energy of saying something bad about something is coming from, right? But again, in a world where we want to always be first, right? Always want to be the first to WhatsApp my friend, always want to be first to share in WhatsApp group, right? So we're all getting into that mode. So I think it's also down to sort of like, consumer, right? People who watch it, people who share this kind of thing. So it's quite subjective. So it's the only way that I could, advise is sort of like, for brands to sort of, I know brand can be created, these days they can create in one day, right? But spend time to sort of like craft what's the brand plan for you, right? So then you can sort of maneuver within a safe area and be creative in an area where you are comfortable with, right? Because if you don't have a plan, you'll always be scared doing something, pushing the edge. Yeah, so that's a small advice that I can give. Yeah.
What do you think?
I think in my career I've navigated a fair share of controversy.
But share, man. Pray share some.
There was a chocolate case with porcine. I think I was part of the trying to solve that. And there are in our country, I think there are certain no areas. There are many areas to play with. I think also you should know what your brand is standing or should stand for or want to be known for, and play in the areas where you are strong in. Don't intentionally go and court controversy for the sake of courting controversy. If you have a controversial brand, then that is your brand DNA. Then by all means, go ahead and be ready to expect the feedback and expect the backlashes, and have a what do you call that, a plan ready in terms of how to respond to those feedback.
Right.
But if there is like a lot of crisis going on, like there were many was crazy also was in some of the financial markets also were involved, and it's very hard to predict. I think it's all evaluated on a case-to-case basis, but leverage on the focus on the strengths of your brand. I think that's the key thing from what I've learned, and always be prepared. If you put out a piece of communication which is a bit controversial, for example, like Mudah last year, or this year also, we ran the same campaign. We featured a toyol in one of our marketing campaigns, and there were a lot of people were saying very funny comments about all this, and we were prepared for that, and even we put a qualifier right in front of the ad also. This is just for fun. Please don't take things too seriously, because there are a lot of people who take things way too seriously, and then we lose that touch, that we lose that in terms of what makes us special, and the in terms of the diversity that we should be actually celebrating instead of avoiding in that sense.
So, and Prof, you as a representative of Malaysia for Khans and all of that, right? I mean, years and years of creativity. Is there a need to balance, or there's no need to balance? Because any publicity is good publicity, according to some.
Very good question. We are all brands. There are 4 brands here talking. We are very special, Malaysians, in the sense that we have gone through a lot. When you talk about tolerance, diversity, patience, actually we know where to stop, where to draw the line. We are very sensitive to other people and other cultures. In the context of the world, like if I go to Cannes, I see an American, I see, okay, they have their thing lah. But I always feel that the Malaysian person, or the person who's been exposed to the Malaysian style, is actually quite a strong person. So much so the outside person will not be able to understand how come we can tolerate so much. Some people call it discrimination. No, we call it living together peacefully. You understand what I'm saying, right? So politically correct or politically incorrect, the Malaysian consumer and the Malaysian is already very seasoned and very matured. That person knows how to moderate, for example. What is right, what is wrong. Tak payah have a code of conduct because already inbuilt. We are survivors. We have seen everything. We have weathered everything, and we are basically the moderator of the world.
No showing of armpits.
Not overthinking.
Cannot show denim. I remember last time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was a list of brand safety measurements that we had as well.
Yes.
Right. I don't know whether it's still in place, but it's interesting to think about that, Nick.
Right.
Yeah. Nick, I just also want to see that are there any case studies you think that was from your part that bordered on this, like could have become a crisis or not, where you quickly came in or advised the client against running a certain campaign or so. Perhaps you have something that you can share with us, so as a takeaway.
Unfortunately, it's always at the other side where the damage is already there. We have instances where client didn't go direct with us and did a campaign outside our network, and something else appeared next to it, and they quickly work with us on doing a proper communication or like just a feedback of why that happened and stuff, right? So we help them in making sure that that story appeared in a verified sites like ours and state what really happened behind the scene, right? So I would really advise, especially SME we're talking to today, work with us, the premium publisher. And if you don't want to work with premium publisher like us, anything very expensive, we have SME Red, by the way. Look for sites that, has tick verified, right? So spend time and looking for the site before you sort of make your commitment. And there were a time in the past where all this viral Facebook were making a lot of money on branded content, right? Clickbait and stuff, right? And we've seen them competing with a lot of our business. But at the end of the day, like I said, sustainability of this kind of site, they don't stay very long. Because once you kena tipu click one time, you will never go back there. Even though you create one super story, but then it's not going to be there for long. So what my advice is just those simple things. Look out for verified one. Work with premium publisher. If you as all these platforms like Facebook, they've got a lot of community guide on brand safety. They are easy to understand. They make it easy to understand. So go and look out for it there.
And Andrew, so your thoughts, because if you do just verified publishers, I mean again, I just go back to this. The reality is that the cost may be higher lah. And brand safety, while it's important, may not be that important when people are now looking at the next rice bowl that they have to fill, right? What are your views on that?
So the reality is that my best piece of advice to the audience would be that the business is about reaching the right people, the right audience. Use that as a fundamental principle and find where your audiences could be. Like, for example, again, I give you an example of Mudah, for example. So we know that when someone buys a house, the next thing they want to probably buy is, I don't know, a fridge, or oven or electrical items, right? So you can post ads on terms of when people are looking for the house, become top of mind, and customize some of your messages according to that. From a pricing point of view, definitely you need to pay a bit more premium. But the reality is that marketplaces was actually created for smaller businesses. When you come to Mudah, you post an ad. I think most of the categories you post an ad for free. You buy a premium service, it's like RM8. Banner packages start, I think, from we've changed some for this year to support local from 3,500 ringgit. The cost per reach is about 2 cents. So we did a lot of these initiatives this year to actually support the local businesses, because we realized that if they don't survive, we won't survive. Because end of the day, Mudah doesn't own any of the content.
Yes.
Mudah as well as Carousel Group as well this year, last year rather, we're part of the same group now. Try to explore more marketplaces. The cost per reach and the cost per value actually will be much more cheaper, cost effective in that sense. And then slowly scale up the businesses to maybe e-commerce. E-commerce also, then you have two issues you have in terms of, one, you need to pay a commission, and the second one, the payment is actually withheld from you at this point of time. But you do get the convenience of one-to-many. So understand in terms of the stage of your business, find the right place with the right audience, and then optimize based on that.
So, Prof, from a brand identity loyalty standpoint, right? We're told to pivot. In fact, even MDEC is driving people in to say, think about digital, get into the digital platforms, coba dulu, try dulu, right? Get into it, right? Remove the fear. But as we think about getting very quickly into all these platforms, do we firstly need to go back to the basics? And there's a question here that says that, do the SMEs need to establish their principles and brand values before even executing a digital marketing strategy? Or is it just about speed to market?
Yeah, a lot of people talk about it, but nobody does it. They just do it, like Nike. But it's always good, of course, to have a blueprint or a map of what you want to do as you move forward, and that come under the gambit of planning and the strategy and all that, naturally. Yeah. But I want to tell again to the entrepreneurs who are coming into digital or already into digital, because quite a few of them are. I mean, MDEC has been doing a lot of work to promote that. I feel that I just want to share some news while we're talking. Is that last week Facebook refunded millions of ringgit to advertisers, and LinkedIn also refunded millions. Yeah. I think ringgit could be billions also. So these platforms that the entrepreneurs are looking at, like Facebook and all that, they also now can understand that even those platforms make mistakes. In this case, they refunded money because somehow the people who advertised during that particular time were not treated fairly, or something happened. I don't know whether there was some brand safety issues or whatever. But at the end of the day, Facebook refunded the money back. So now we live in a different age of transparency. So I think that the entrepreneur also has a say. If this thing doesn't really work, I think the entrepreneur should actually say, because this system that Andrew was saying, we are in it together. Together that we are going to make this thing work. So Facebook cannot do everything on their own. For example, I just using Facebook example. Google could be another one. But entrepreneurs have a role also to play to make sure that this becomes, because they can, if they use digital and digital does not work, there is a reason why. And sometimes it is not their fault.
Nick, what can you add on to that? Because that's interesting, right? Have you guys faced? You see, I'll put it in the context. Digital agencies, digital marketing agencies, right? You say I got $5,000 or $10,000. They say I can give you X amount of impressions, X amount of reach, for sure, right? It's stated upfront in the contract, right? And then you look at the leads that are coming in. 80% are cold leads, right? Over the last 2 days, that's what we're hearing. 20% is something they can use, but even then, it needs more thinking about, is it really relevant to me, right? So when you talk about, and we just digress a bit from brand safety, right? But even on your platform, how would you guarantee that the quality of that money spent, especially now when resources are so tight?
That's a long That's a long reply.
5 minutes left, man. So you got 1 minute.
Andrew is gonna help me with this after this, okay? So in terms of like optimizing, the dollar and cent of whoever is spending on our platform, I think I need to speak to on our platform perspective, right? Because I know that better. There's a few things that we always do with the client that we have on board, and of course that's why you come to a premium publisher like us. We will help you to optimize the campaign, and we'll be transparent to you, right? Give you an example. Sometimes some of the headlines that we pick in the first day don't really work for your campaign, right? So we work with you to optimize it and tell you, hey, can we change the headline, or the story angle? And in a lot of time, our campaign team actually work very hard to sort of like make sure that the reach that the client need, we promise the client on our platform actually deliver the right audience, because we're not gonna reshare on somewhere else to make sure that you reach it, the target that we have. And really, I think that's the second one. Sorry, following my thoughts. The second one is we do a lot of retargeting of our audience within our network. The big platform has been doing this for a very long time. For local publisher like us, Media.my, and I know Andrew and the teams are doing. And Rev Media, we actually have a retargeting, audience within our 15 million audience.
Right.
So if that audience doesn't work, so for example, you pick one of our food site to advertise on, we suddenly realize, hey, actually your audience is they are all in a game platform called My Game On, right? So we can actually follow them and tell you, okay, let's retarget it on this particular platform, because we realize all the food people are going there, right? So we really look for a valuable way within our platform to to maximize that, and it's in our interest, right? Because if I give a campaign that doesn't return any value, which is today is, I mean, that happens, and you're not gonna come back to our platform anymore.
Nick, quick one. Question. Is there a preferred rate for SMEs and a special rate for NGOs?
Yeah, we have one for SME. We haven't had one for NGO. I'm pretty sure I know our sales teams are watching this. So we have one for SME. You can look out for me. I don't know how you're gonna get my contact. Nicholas.Sagau at redmedia.my.
So maybe, right? Andrew, for SMEs and for NGO, special and special rates for both preferred and special?
Yes, for display, yes, we just created it. You can write to display at Mudah.my. We'll hook you up. But definitely, I think as a role in terms of a way to give back to the community, we have actually created very professional rates for SMEs, especially for micro businesses. In a way, I think some of the bigger companies are a bit upset with us. It's like, why can't I buy at that rate? But I think the reality is that we're also trying to help out the rest of the entrepreneurs during these testing times.
And preferred and special?
NGO depends on the cost. We actually sometimes run pro bono campaigns for NGOs.
Very good. Preferred and special?
Sorry, preferred and special what? Rates?
Preferred, yeah. Preferred rate or special rates for SMEs and NGOs to be with you? Or you do it pro bono for both?
Oh, I'm free. Don't worry. I'm very generous with everybody.
Right. Okay. As we close it up, we've got 2 minutes more. I just want to check. It's been a long 6 months, 8 months, guys. What are some of the special skills outside of work that you have picked up for the safety of your mental health? Are you now bakers? Are you now gamers? What are some of the special skills? Prof, start with you. We go down the line and we'll end it.
Well, I've always been a publisher and I've always organized events. So I just changed my operation into the virtual space. As far as my publishing is concerned, I've just gone more personalization, more personalized, more weekly, more regular. So basically the COVID has made us more fine-tune our thinking, so that we are much more singular in our thoughts. Okay. So I've been doing a lot of watching and a lot of learning, and I am still learning as we go along.
Andrew?
I've rehabbed my hand. So what happened was during Raya, I actually broke my collarbone. There's like this big metal plate here. So I've been doing a lot of rehab and I'm happy to have mobility. So sometimes you still feel the pain, but a lot of rehab and I've been trying to cycle more and exercise more. But it really shows you or to appreciate mobility in that sense. I think once you lose it, you're like 1 month in the bed, you can't move your arm, and it's a long process. So
Mine. Nick, what have you been up to?
So my kids and my daughters are, always at home. You can see one just walked in just now. I think Ham. So I've been teaching the first MCO. I taught the oldest one at the both of them to ride bicycle. So the second RMCO, which is the second long at home. Now I'm teaching them roller skate using YouTube. And I don't roller skate. So yeah, that's a skill I pick up.
Fantastic. Digital learning. Okay, yeah. We're going to close it off.
Yeah.
30 seconds. We come back to brand safety, right? How to win, how to help entrepreneurs win, right? In brand safety, right? So, quick word of advice for SMEs here as we close off when they're thinking to go online, digital marketing, and thinking of brand safety, right? A quick word of advice, Prof.
Okay.
One thing to think about.
SMEs are the backbone of our economy well-being. Fact, they play a critical role. My advice is SOS. Start, then observe, then scale accordingly. Start, always start, then observe, make mistake also never mind, scale accordingly. SOS.
Very good. Andrew.
it's I think I echo what the professor said, because even in Mudah also we practice something very similar. It's called stop. It's step back first, and then think, optimize, and then proceed. So it's a different abbreviation, but it comes back to the same thing. But yeah, it's always about continuous learning. There's definitely mistakes that's going to be made, and accept the fact that you will make mistakes and learn from the mistakes and proceed forward.
Nick.
Yeah, so it's almost similar, be micro in your planning, right? Just step one at a time and make sure that, you fail and learn until you get it right. But be micro, don't try to do too many things, because if you one or two people running the business, right? Just be micro in your planning. And last one is capitalize on your capability, right? I've seen a lot of successful SME owner that make themselves as a KOL, right? That's already your capability. Just don't be afraid and try that out. Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. I'm a little bit sad that we don't have gender representation here. We missed our lady who pulled out, so we had to not have gender representation. But the next one we will definitely do that. This brings us to the end of our three-parter, and this is a helping entrepreneurs win. MDEC and Marketing Magazine has curated this series of 1 hour series from 3 to 4 over 3 days. The videos over part 1, part 2, and today's video will be available for all of you all to watch on the Marketing Magazine link and also on MDEC.my, right? MDEC is really, really keen on helping all sort of businesses to go digital. And this series is really to bring all of the industry players, and you see all the experts. There were 9 of us over the last 3 days sharing our knowledge and skills so that all of you can share as well what your pain points are, and hopefully we've helped you over the last 3 days. On that note, I must say thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Prof, for your time, and have a great evening ahead. I really appreciate you guys being here. Signing out from MDEC and Marketing Magazine.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.